Pawn stars aren't just any old shop owners. They are serious businessmen and shrewd negotiators. Their dedication to practicing good business has made them quite wealthy. And what else would the pawn stars do with all that cash than to sling it around at some high-dollar merchandise? In this video, we've got 5 of the most outlandishly expensive purchases from pawn stars. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and let us know what you think in the comments. Number 5. Jay's Treaty. On June 24, 1795, shortly after the American Revolution, a treaty was ratified by the U.S. Senate, which resolved many of the issues remaining between Britain and the United States after the war. The Treaty of Amity, Commerce and Navigation between His Britannic Majesty and the United States of America, known simply as Jay's Treaty, was negotiated by the second governor of New York and the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Jay. So a fascinating piece of American history, Thomas Jefferson's copy of Jay's Treaty showed up at Rick's counter in season 11. A rare circumstance takes place during this transaction, as Rick's expert suggests a value equal to what the seller originally asked, $75 grand. So the seller sticks to his guns as they begin the haggling. But Rick surprisingly lowballs him at $40,000. This seller has leverage in that Rick really wants this item and he knows it. He backs Rick into a corner at 50 grand and the famous negotiator is visibly flustered before he finally gives in. So $50,000 for a piece of paper. But some pretty significant pieces of paper owned by a man of mythical proportions. Number 4. Willy Wonka. It's not that often we see Rick going off-site. He usually makes sellers come to him if they really want to make a deal, but on occasion he will venture to another location to get his hands on something he really wants in the shop. The 1971 film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring Gene Wilder, has remained a standard to this day, having won several accolades and introducing songs like The Candyman to the public. The film is based on a 1964 novel which tells the story of a young boy from humble beginnings whose life becomes quite eventful when he finds one of Willy Wonka's golden tickets. You all know the rest of this story, which was even parodied by Michael Scott on the ever-popular show The Office. Rick's trek brings him to the home of the owner of several props used in the original film. Items from the movie include Willy's hat, a golden ticket, the golden egg, and the infamous everlasting gobstopper. Rick is obviously intrigued by the gobstopper and starts working on a deal which concludes in one Wonka bar and the everlasting gobstopper for $105,000. That is some expensive candy. Number 3. 1932 Lincoln. The Lincoln Motor Company is the luxury vehicle division of the infamous Ford Motor Company and has been in operation since 1917 and is still doing it today. The sweet classic car seen in this clip is part of the Lincoln Model K series, which was produced from 1931 to 1940 and was one of the most exclusive luxury cars in America. Prior to this period, Lincoln didn't follow the pattern of changing models every single year like many of their competitors. But in 1931, with the Model K, they began yearly style changes. Adding to its exclusivity is the fact that this car was produced in the thick of the Great Depression, meaning that a very select few individuals were throwing money around and those fat cats had to be wowed into choosing a Lincoln. So a man who identifies himself as Uncle Phil shows up with one of these sharp set of wheels for Rick and the old man to marvel at. Clearly, they really want to make this deal. What else is clear is that Uncle Phil is not easily moved. So in a quick and down-to-business negotiation, the seller asks $100,000. Rick offers him $85,000. He coldly and emotionlessly shakes his head and says nope. This is a signal to Rick that he had better up his price before Phil walks. So he offers $95 grand, a big jump from his original offer. Then the seller makes a rather unusual pivot. He agrees to $95,000 in gold. Now, it's not technically legal for the pawn shop to trade gold for a car, but they give him cash for the car, then trade that cash for gold and some slick Vegas pawn sleight of hand. Number 2. Coinage. What's to say about this buy? A guy goes to a coin show in search of a coin he's been looking for. He finds the coin and buys it for himself for $67,500. Whoa. But come on, Rick Harrison runs a wildly successful business, is one of the most well-known TV personalities of our time. If he wants the coin, he can have the coin. Number 1. Hi-Ho Silver. So a guy walks into a pawn shop with 210 pounds of silver. And you've heard this story before, right? Know what comes next? No, you don't, because who the hell walks into anywhere with 210 pounds of silver? This is nuts. Rick and the old man are definitely going to buy this, but they've got one problem. Amongst the coins and bars, there is one massive slab of silver. The suspicion is that there could be another type of metal buried within the bar, a fairly common trick of con men. So Rick offers to test it out by drilling into the center, melting down some shavings, and testing them with nitric acid. Who knew this guy was such a chemist? It all checks out, and they make a deal for $111,000. Even the Lone Ranger is stunned. Hi-ho, silver away! Wow, that's a lot of dough. The Pawn Stars do not mess around when it comes to grabbing merchandise. You've seen 5 huge purchases here today. Do you know of more massive buys from the Pawn Stars? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, don't spend all that cash in one place.